The Galactic Council had seen many wars before. Worlds had burned, empires had fallen, and countless species had begged for mercy before them. But this war began with silence. No one expected it to start with humanity. For years, humans were seen as a young, curious race. They traded peacefully, helped in disasters, and sent explorers across the stars with smiles and open hands. Other species called them harmless dreamers. They had no empire, no massive fleets, no ancient weapons. Just technology that was good enough, and courage that was often mistaken for foolishness, until the Zerath Empire attacked. It started on a quiet moon called Eden 9, a human colony known for farming and peace. When the Zerath ships entered orbit, no one believed they would attack. Even the colony's defense officer hesitated before sending a distress signal. The Council received the message too, but they didn't intervene. They had a rule. No species would be protected unless the attack threatened the balance of power. And to them, humanity was too small to matter. But humanity didn't beg. They didn't surrender. They didn't wait for the Council. They fought. At first, the battle looked hopeless. The Zerath ships rained plasma fire from the sky, turning cities to ash. Civilians ran to underground shelters. Human soldiers fought with outdated weapons, old fighter jets, and simple ground units. But behind their calm voices and desperate defenses, something ancient began to stir in their minds. Something older than civilization itself. Fear turned to rage. Pain turned to focus. And every human, from the farmer clutching a rifle to the pilot burning through the clouds, felt it. They called it the predator instinct. The Council's satellites recorded the moment it began. A human commander, trapped behind enemy lines, gave a simple order: don't defend. Hunt them. The battlefield changed that second. Human tactics became unpredictable, terrifying even. They didn't fight like soldiers anymore. They fought like predators, silent, strategic, patient, and merciless. The Zerath fleet reported that humans appeared out of nowhere, using wreckage as cover, sabotaging ships, turning enemy tech against them. In only 3 days, the entire Zerath invasion fleet vanished. Their last transmission to the Council was just static, and then a scream. When the Council finally met to discuss it, they were silent for hours. None could understand how a species so peaceful could become something so deadly so quickly. A few suggested it was luck. Others believed humans had hidden technology. But the oldest member of the Council, a being older than most stars, whispered something that chilled them all. It wasn't luck. It was instinct. Something primitive and perfect. The Council watched recordings from human soldiers' helmets. They saw humans move with a kind of focus and calm that no other species possessed. They didn't fight for glory or empire. They fought for survival, and that made them unstoppable. Some Council members demanded an investigation. Others warned not to provoke them again. But it was already too late. The Zerath Empire had vanished from the galactic maps, erased by a species that until a week ago, everyone had called harmless. And deep inside their ships, humanity stayed quiet. They didn't celebrate. They didn't broadcast victory. They just rebuilt, watched, and waited. Because they knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The Council didn't know it yet, but they had made a fatal mistake. By allowing the attack, by letting the Zerath strike first, they had awakened something in humanity that could never be put back to sleep. The predator instinct was awake now. And it remembered. The Galactic Council gathered once again in the Grand Chamber. The golden walls of the hall reflected light from 1,000 stars, but that day the room felt cold. The members of the Council sat in silence, each lost in thought. No one dared to speak first. At the center of the chamber floated a holographic image, Earth. Around it were hundreds of red markers, showing every human ship now armed and active across nearby systems. What shocked them wasn't the number of ships. It was how fast humanity had built them. Only a few weeks ago, Earth had been considered a minor colony world. Now it looked like a fortress. Factories that once built transport shuttles were producing warships. Civilian research labs had turned into defense hubs. Every human world had gone silent on open channels. Their communications locked behind encryption codes even the Council couldn't break. It was as if the entire species had shifted overnight from peace to war. The Council leader, A tall crystalline being named RX finally broke the silence. "Has anyone spoken with them?" he asked. The answer came from the Andron delegate, a reptilian scholar with trembling hands. "No. Every attempt to contact their governments has been ignored. The humans, they are preparing for something." Oryx turned to the defense commander of the council, a warrior from the Volcar species. "Do you believe they will attack?" The Volcar's eyes flickered like molten glass. "I do not know," he said quietly. "But I have seen how they fight. They do not strike for conquest. They strike for revenge." That word, revenge, made the chamber grow even colder. The council had seen species seek justice before. But humanity was different. They didn't rage. They didn't threaten. They acted, quietly, precisely. And when they did, no one could predict what came next. Reports began to flow in. Council probes had gone missing near human space. Merchant ships were avoiding human trade routes. Even pirates refused to enter their sectors. Fear spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The humans had become a mystery wrapped in silence. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was watching too. Satellites tracked every council fleet movement. Hidden listening stations recorded every transmission. The humans were calm, almost too calm. But behind that calmness, something far more dangerous was growing. They were studying, learning, preparing. In a hidden base beneath the surface of Mars, a group of human officers sat around a long table. Their leader, Admiral Reyes, stared at a hologram of the council chamber. "They're afraid of us," he said. Another officer, younger and sharper, frowned. "Good. Maybe they'll stay out of our way." But Reyes shook his head. "No, fear doesn't stop empires. It makes them plan. And when they plan, they make mistakes." He looked around the table. "They watched us burn. They did nothing. Now they watch us rebuild. And they still do nothing. But one day, they'll try to control us again. When that day comes, we won't be caught unprepared." Back in the council's chamber, the discussion grew heated. Some wanted to send ambassadors. Others wanted to form alliances against humanity before it was too late. Oryx raised a hand. "No," he said firmly. "We will not attack them, not now. We must understand them first." "But understand what?" shouted a delegate. "That they are monsters?" Oryx stared at the holographic image of Earth. "No," he said softly. "That they are survivors." For a long moment, no one spoke. The chamber filled with the quiet hum of the star engines above them. Then Oryx whispered the words that every being in that room would remember for the rest of their lives. "By letting the Zerath strike them, we did not just test them. We forged them. And now humanity stands as something new, something we cannot control." The others looked uneasy. "What if they come for us?" one asked. Oryx's eyes dimmed and his voice was calm but heavy. "Then may the stars help us all." Outside the chamber, far beyond the reach of council control, human ships moved in silence. No one knew their mission. No one could track their destinations. But one thing was clear. The galaxy had changed forever, and the council's greatest fear had just begun to grow. Months passed after the council's fearful meeting, yet humanity made no threats, no speeches, and no promises. The galaxy waited for the next explosion of violence, but it never came. Instead, something quieter and far more dangerous began. The humans expanded. Not loudly, not through war, but with silence and purpose. New colonies appeared in systems once thought too harsh for life. Mining ships moved through asteroid belts that no other race dared to enter. Old, forgotten stations on the edge of known space lit up again, now under the human flag. The council's spies sent back strange reports. Humans were terraforming dead worlds faster than anyone had seen before. They were building fleets without announcing their purpose. Every ship, every satellite, every factory worked together like pieces of one enormous design. But no one knew what that design was. The council tried to understand. They sent probes. None returned. They sent drones. All were hacked or destroyed. Finally, they sent envoys, but the envoys came back shaken, whispering the same words. "They don't trust us anymore." Inside the human command base on Luna Prime, Admiral Reyes watched the map of their expansion. Each blue light represented a new colony or fleet. There were hundreds now. He stood in silence, surrounded by younger officers who waited for orders. "They're watching us," one officer said. "They always do," Reyes replied. But this time let them see. Let them see what they created. He pointed at the map. Every ship, every base, we build not for conquest but for survival. The galaxy must never forget that when humanity is cornered, we adapt. Far across the stars, other species began to feel uneasy. Human traders were polite but distant. Their ships, once friendly and open, now traveled in heavily armed convoys. And in the shadows, rumors began to spread. The humans are building something powerful. They have a weapon no one has seen before. They're preparing for another war. The council called another secret meeting. The chamber was tense. RX, the council leader, looked tired, his once bright crystal form dimmer than before. "We have reports," he said quietly, "that humans are moving toward the neutral zone." Gasps filled the room. The neutral zone was forbidden territory, a dead space filled with ancient ruins from a long-extinct race. No one dared enter it for fear of awakening what lay hidden there. But the humans were already there. "Why?" one delegate shouted. "What are they looking for?" No one had the answer. But deep down they all feared the same thing, that humanity wasn't just building ships. They were searching for something. Something old. Something dangerous. Meanwhile, on the surface of a ruined world inside the neutral zone, human explorers moved through metallic ruins buried in dust. Their torches glowed against walls marked with alien symbols. In the silence, a female scientist spoke softly into her recorder. "These structures predate all known civilizations. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever this is, it wasn't made by us." Suddenly, the ground trembled. Machines long forgotten began to hum again. The scientist's eyes widened. "They're activating," she whispered. The team quickly called for extraction. But before they could leave, one of them noticed a strange pattern on the wall, symbols that resembled human DNA. When the report reached Admiral Reyes, he said nothing for a long time. Finally, he spoke in a low voice. "Prepare a quarantine zone. No one outside Earth Command sees this data." "Sir?" one officer asked. "What did we find out there?" Reyes turned away, his voice cold. "Proof that humanity was never supposed to stay small. The galaxy fears what it doesn't understand, and soon they'll have a reason to." Back in the council chamber, panic was spreading. The humans had crossed a line, and the council didn't know how to respond. Some called for an immediate blockade. Others wanted peace talks, but RX only watched the stars through the glass dome. "They're not expanding for power," he said softly. "They're searching for their origin. And somewhere out in the darkness, humanity found the first piece of the truth, something buried deep in alien ruins that would soon shake the galaxy to its core." The council had feared the predator instinct, but they had no idea what was truly coming. The storm over the ruined planet never stopped. Lightning crawled across the dark sky, flashing against the black towers that stood like the bones of dead gods. Deep inside those ruins, humanity's greatest secret was waking up. The excavation teams worked quietly. Machines hummed. Drones scanned. Every movement was careful, precise, almost sacred. The ruins were old, older than the council, older than any known species. Dr. Arya Kane, lead scientist of the mission, stood before a giant sealed door made of an unknown metal. The symbols carved into it glowed faintly, reacting to the human's presence. "Record everything," she said. "No one touches anything until we know what it is." But when her hand brushed the surface of the door, the air changed. A low hum filled the chamber. The ground vibrated. Every instrument went wild. Then slowly the door opened on its own. Beyond it was a vast chamber filled with floating orbs of light. In the center stood a tall structure, a machine shaped like a human figure but ancient, alien, and lifeless. Kane stepped closer, her voice trembling. "This isn't alien," she whispered. "It's human." Her team stared in disbelief. "Impossible," one of them said. "Humans didn't exist back then." Kane turned toward him. "Then explain why this machine's DNA signature matches ours." The message was sent to Earth Command. Hours later, Admiral Reyes received it in his war room. The moment he saw the data, his face turned pale. "Run a full encryption," he ordered. "This information doesn't leave our system." The AI analyst beside him hesitated. "Sir, this could change everything we know about our history." Reyes looked at the hologram of the human-shaped machine. "Exactly," he said. "That's why no one can know. Not yet." While humanity studied the artifact, the Council's surveillance systems caught faint signals from the neutral zone, energy readings so powerful they distorted communications across 5 sectors. RX, the Council leader, demanded answers. "What are they doing there?" he asked. No one could tell him. All they knew was that something ancient had been awakened, and only humans seemed to be able to activate it. The panic spread. Some species began to flee colonies near human space. Others started arming fleets. Rumors filled the galaxy again. Humans found ancient weapons. They discovered a machine that can control stars. They've awakened something that was sleeping for millennia. But humanity stayed silent. Their networks went dark. No public messages, no council updates, no answers. Just silence. And silence made the galaxy afraid. On the surface of the ruined world, the human artifact began to glow. A soft light spread across the metal walls. The machine's chest opened, revealing a core that pulsed like a heart. Dr. Kane stood frozen. "It's reacting to us," she said quietly. "It recognizes human life." The machine's voice filled the chamber, soft, cold, and ancient. "Designation human, return confirmed. Directive, continue the Genesis protocol." The team stared in shock. "What protocol?" someone asked. But before they could respond, the machine powered down again. Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes and his command team analyzed the message. Words like Genesis protocol and return confirmed repeated in every recording. One officer whispered, Are we part of something bigger? Were we made for a purpose?" Reyes didn't answer. He stared at the hologram of the council chamber projected beside the data. "They'll never let us keep this," he said. "They'll come for it. And when they do, we'll be ready." At the same time, the council's spies confirmed the worst. Human fleets were moving again. Quietly, efficiently, surrounding the neutral zone like a protective wall. "They're building a shield," a scout reported. "They're protecting something." Oryx sat in silence, his crystalline body flickering. "Protecting? Or awakening?" he said softly. The question spread through the chamber like cold fire. The galaxy had seen wars, conquests, and rebellions, but never before had it seen humanity standing between life and something ancient enough to rewrite history. And in the shadows of those ruins, the machine's eyes flickered again, faint but alive. The voice whispered once more. Too soft for the humans to hear, the cycle begins again. The Galactic Council could not stay silent anymore. The reports were too alarming, the signals too powerful, and the fear spreading too fast. Every species demanded action. RX, the council leader, stood before the gathered delegates, a sea of alien faces glowing under the pale light of the chamber. The air was thick with tension. "Humanity has sealed the neutral zone," RX began. "They have activated unknown technology, possibly a weapon. We cannot ignore this any longer." One delegate slammed his fist against the table. "They are hiding something that could destroy us all." Another shouted, "We must send a fleet before it's too late." The room erupted in noise. Voices overlapped, fear, anger, panic. The council had not been this divided in centuries. Oryx raised his voice, sharp and clear. "Enough. We will not start a war without reason." But deep inside, even Oryx felt the same fear. The council voted. The result: send a peace fleet, a show of strength. Officially, it was only to observe and protect. But everyone knew what it really meant. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species gathered near the border of human space. The fleet was massive, the largest since the War of the Old Suns. It was meant to intimidate. And on the other side, humanity waited. In orbit above the moon Titan, Admiral Reyes stood before a massive holographic screen showing the approaching fleet. His officers waited for orders. "Open communications," Reyes said. A transmission filled the council's flagship. The human admiral appeared, calm, composed, eyes sharp as blades. "This is Admiral Reyes of the United Terran Command," he said. "You are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately." The council fleet commander, a proud warrior from the Vulcar species, sneered. "You cannot command the council, human. We come under the authority of galactic law." Reyes didn't blink. "Then you should know. Your law does not apply here anymore." The transmission ended. The human ship stayed still. No warnings, no threats, just silence. Minutes passed. Then the council fleet moved forward. That was the moment they crossed the line. A pulse rippled through space. Invisible but powerful. Every sensor in the fleet went dark. Shields failed. Engines flickered. The Council ships drifted helplessly. Then, out of the black, human ships appeared, not hundreds, but thousands. They didn't fire. They didn't move aggressively. They simply surrounded the entire fleet. The silence was unbearable. Admiral Reyes appeared again on every Council screen. His voice was steady, but his words cut through the void like steel. "You sent your ships to watch us," he said. "Now they will witness." He turned to his officers. "Activate the barrier." Behind the human fleet, the stars seemed to bend. A massive structure emerged, invisible until now. It stretched for light minutes across space, made of thousands of linked satellites forming a glowing web. Energy rippled across it like waves. The Genesis barrier. The same energy readings that had terrified the Council now filled their screens again, stronger than before. It wasn't a weapon, it was protection. "This barrier will mark the edge of human space," Reyes said. "No one enters without permission. Not again." The Council commander shouted, "You cannot isolate yourself. You will break the galactic order." Reyes's expression didn't change. "The order broke itself when you watched us burn." Silence followed. No one spoke. The Council fleet slowly retreated, powerless to act. Back in the Council chamber, chaos erupted once more. Delegates demanded explanations, strategies, anything that would make sense of what they'd seen. But Oryx only sat quietly, watching the recordings. The moment he saw the barrier's energy pattern, his body flickered in fear. He recognized it. It wasn't new technology. It was ancient. The same energy that once powered the extinct race whose ruins humans had found. "This isn't their creation," Oryx whispered. "It's their inheritance." One advisor turned to him. "What do you mean?" Oryx looked toward the stars on the display. "I mean, humanity didn't just find the past. They are the past. Reborn." The chamber fell silent again. Every delegate stared at him, realizing the same truth. The humans hadn't built a weapon to destroy the galaxy. They'd built a wall to protect something older than all of them. Out beyond the barrier, Admiral Reyes stood before the viewing window of his flagship. The stars shimmered behind the new shield. For the first time, he allowed himself a quiet sigh. "They wanted to see what we would become," he said softly. "Now they know." The human fleet slowly turned and vanished back into the dark, leaving behind a galaxy that would never sleep peacefully again. The stars beyond the Genesis barrier shimmered like frozen fire. For months, no signals came from human space. No ships crossed the border. The Council waited, watched, and feared. For silence from humanity had become the loudest threat of all. Then one morning, the silence broke. A single transmission reached every major world, every fleet, every outpost across the galaxy. The signal carried a voice, calm, steady, unmistakably human. "This is Admiral Reyes of the United Terran Command. The Genesis protocol has been completed." The Council chamber erupted in confusion. What did it mean? What had they done? Oryx, the Council leader, ordered the signal to be displayed. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber. Behind Reyes stood the massive figure of the ancient machine, now active. Its glowing eyes burned with golden light. The humans stood around it like guardians. Reyes began to speak. "Centuries ago, a race far older than any of us ruled this galaxy. They were the architects. They built the systems, the travel lanes, the very laws of energy that all our technology still depends on. And when their time ended, they left one design behind, a genetic seed." He paused. His voice grew quieter. "That seed was humanity." Gasps filled the Council chamber. Reyes continued. "We were meant to awaken when the galaxy lost its balance, when order turned to corruption, when those who claimed to lead became those who watched others suffer. We were meant to remember what they forgot, to rebuild." The chamber fell silent. No one moved. Oryx whispered, almost to himself. "Rebuild what?" Reyes looked directly at the camera. "Everything." Behind him, the machine spoke in its cold, ancient voice. Directive 1, restore the design. Directive 2, protect the seed. Directive 3, erase the corruption. Oryx's crystal body dimmed. "Corruption?" he murmured. "They mean us." The human fleets began to move again, not to attack, but to rebuild. Automated ships entered damaged systems, repairing broken stations, restoring abandoned colonies, purifying poisoned worlds. Wherever humanity went, destruction was replaced with order. But the Council saw something deeper. Human ships were rewriting the galactic grid. They were changing trade routes, redirecting energy flows, resetting the ancient network built by the architects. Slowly, silently, humanity was taking control of the galaxy's foundation itself, and no one could stop them. RX called an emergency meeting. "We must speak with them," he said, "before the order we built is gone forever." The Council sent one final envoy to human space, and not a fleet, not an army, but a single ship carrying RX himself. When he arrived beyond the Genesis barrier, the stars looked different. The energy fields shimmered like rivers of light. Human ships moved in perfect formation, silent, calm, unstoppable. He was escorted to a massive station orbiting the machine world. There Admiral Reyes awaited him. Oryx studied the human admiral for a long moment. "You could rule this galaxy," he said. "Why don't you?" Reyes gave a small smile. "Because that's not our purpose, and then what is?" Oryx asked. Reyes looked out the viewing window. Below them, the machine world pulsed with light, restoring dead systems, healing broken stars. "Our purpose," he said quietly, "is to finish what they started, and to make sure no one ever forgets what we became when you tested us." Oryx lowered his head. "We feared you," he admitted. "And perhaps we deserve to." Reyes turned toward him. "Fear keeps you alive, but wisdom keeps you from repeating mistakes. You let others suffer, Oryx. You watched as the weak were crushed. That is the true corruption the architects warned about." Oryx's body dimmed completely for a moment, then glowed softly again. "And what of the predator instinct?" he asked. "Do you still carry it?" Reyes looked at him with calm human eyes. "Always, but we control it now. It's not a curse. It's our reminder that peace without strength is just waiting to die." The two stood in silence as the machine world continued to shine. Then Reyes said one last thing. "The Council made a mistake. You woke the predator in us, but the predator also remembers mercy." He extended his hand. "Help us rebuild, Oryx, or stand aside." The Council leader hesitated, then slowly reached out and took the human's hand. For the first time in history, a human and a Council leader stood side by side, not as rulers and subjects, but as builders of a new beginning. The stars outside flared brighter. The Genesis protocol was complete. Across the galaxy, life began to change. War ended in systems that had known only chaos. Old enemies laid down arms. The new order was neither human nor alien. It was balanced. Guided quietly by the species everyone once called harmless, the galaxy would never forget the lesson. When humanity is pushed to the edge, they do not break. They evolve. And from that day on, every star carried the same silent warning: never mistake humanity's kindness for weakness.